Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, mindset elevation coach, intentional living guide, and publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine. For 17 years, Aspire has been inspiring, empowering, and supporting women in living their most aligned and intentional lives. If you haven't grabbed your free subscription, you can do so at subscribe-to-aspire.com. And by the way, it comes with over 30 transformational digital gifts from our supporters. So head on over to subscribe-to-aspire.com. You know, my friends, do you ever feel like you have too much stuff? I know we've all been there. And a cluttered space isn't just inconvenient. The truth is, it's hard to lead a joyful, purposeful life when the things around you are detracting from your relationships, habits, goals, and even your own personal energy. I am so excited for today's conversation. Decluttering expert and author of the new book, Make Space for Happiness, Tracy talks about how we can finally stop attracting clutter and start magnetizing the life we want. While working for a major television director in LA, Tracy discovered she had the ability to see through any mess and clearly envision a clutter-free space. Coupled with keen time management and organizational skills, she soon found more and more people were asking for her help. Before she knew it, dClutterfly was born. 15 years and thousands of decluttered homes later, Tracy knew it was time to take what she had learned working with her clients and write a book to help others dealing with clutter. She is now the author of 2 best-selling books and is regularly featured expert in the media, including the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, Goop, Home and Family, Real Simple, and the list goes on. So happy to have you here today, Tracy.
Thanks, Linda. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I was telling Tracy off the air, this is one of my favorite topics because maybe it's because of my own personal journey of realizing how clutter has affected my life over the years and how I energetically felt as I began to release things. So I always love to start the conversation, Tracy, with this question, because I've noticed in 7 years of hosting this show that all my guests, there's this thread, and the thread is something in their life or their own life experiences led them to the work they're doing in the world. So yeah, and I have found they all laugh like you did, and they're like, oh, no, she's right. So bring us back. What do you think in your life experiences or something that occurred in your life that led you to this work that you're doing now?
So this is I have to giggle. So I was one of those people. So I've had my business now for 15 plus years. And I was definitely I didn't start it till I was in my 40s. And I was definitely one of those people that a lot of my earlier careers and jobs were figuring out what I didn't want to do, right? I would do things and I'd be like, that's not for me. And I don't know what my calling is and what's my purpose. And when I was working as a personal assistant, I would start to get calls from friends and people, friends of the person I was working for, and like, well, you're organized. Can you help? And so I'd go and I'd start to do these little jobs and clean out a garage, or somebody's, had to deal with paperwork, or somebody's grandma had passed away. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved making order out of chaos. I loved it. And I had this sort of innate understanding from the very beginning that it was emotional, that it wasn't just stuff, that there was attachment and people were really wound around it. And I'm going along and my business takes off and it's going gangbusters. And I have to laugh because I couldn't see the forest for the trees. So I was talking to a client of mine who was a Jungian psychiatrist, and he was asking me about my history and my childhood. And I just casually mentioned, I was like, oh, yeah, well, my dad's a hoarder. And he was like, what? And I said, oh, yeah, my dad's an extreme hoarder. We've just been dealing with it our whole lives. And, my grandmother lived through the Depression. And he was like, oh, you took your greatest psychic wound, like growing up with a father with this mental disorder, and you turned it into your profession. And it was, Linda, I tell you, until he said it out loud that day, it had never occurred to me, the correlation. And I was like, right. I've never been able to help my dad, and it's my greatest pain. So I took it to help other people.
Isn't that, I mean, I find this so magical, right? How we're always being led to our sacred path. We might not always see the breadcrumbs, but now when he said that, you must have said, it all makes sense.
It all made sense. And that was, by the way, sort of 6 or 7 years into my business. It wasn't like day one. And I went, oh. So it was, this understanding of the emotional hold that our stuff has on us, and that, that it's not, it's not that if someone has a very cluttered house and they're having trouble dealing with it, it's not that they're lazy or that they're a bad housekeeper. There's, you know, people have passed and they've inherited all that stuff, or they've gone through divorces. It's just all the emotions and feelings of life get dumped on our stuff. And the minute that he illuminated that for me, it was like everything just jumped up a next level. I was like, oh, I'm both feet in. This is my life's purpose.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I've discovered that on my own journey. And as I said, as I've been hosting the show for so long, I started noticing a theme with my guests. So that's why I now love to lead the conversation with that, to see what their thread was. So thank you for sharing that. I love stories like that because I believe we're all being divinely led to our purpose. And like you, I had to try many different things till I found what I am here to do.
But
And
Linda,
yes.
didn't you find the interesting thing for me was I had a bit of a feeling of like, oh, I just don't know what I want to do. And I'm, a sort of jack of all trades, master of none. And then when I started Declutterfly and when I started helping people declutter, I realized that every job I'd ever had was just another tool in my tool belt. So none of my time was wasted. It all added to be able to be good at this.
Oh, 110%. I just shared that on one of my coaching calls. I said, when I look back at my life, like you, Tracy, I can see that I was being exactly prepared for what I'm doing now. All the pieces were there, but I didn't have the consciousness to pull them together. And I had to have those experiences to be who I am now, right? So I agree 100%. They all led me to this. And I laugh when I look back going, oh, yeah.
I know. I even think about, like, I had a job for a minute, like working for a lady who watered plants, and I went around and watered plants. And every once in a while, a client will sort of ask me something, and I'll say, and they're like, "How do you know so much about plants?" And I'm like, "Oh, I had this job," and.
Oh, it's so funny because Nellie, you shared that part. God, 28 years ago, I had my first business, and it was a retail store. And I served women and children. I started motivational speaking at that time. But in the store, I always did this 6 to 8 page. I remember going to PDQ printers on pretty paper, and it was like a flyer, a newsletter, a paper newsletter, Tracy. And yes, I talk about sales in the store, but I always did 2 pages of inspiration, right? And the woman would come in every month. Where's the new issue? Where's the new issue? And it was for the inspiration. And I did that for a decade. Now, I'm not putting the pieces together, why they're coming for workshops and motivation. And here I am today publishing one of the largest personal spiritual development magazines for women, right? So see the seeds that were planted then, like you, and look where I am today.
It's amazing. And, one of the things I realized when I work, a lot of my clientele, a lot of people who read my book, and a lot of my clientele is women women kind of between the ages of 40 and 60. That's a big chunk.
That's my
And
audience. Yes.
yep. And I get a call. This is the call. And I'm sure you get a version of this too, where they call me up and they say, I realized I'm the only one who knows where everything in the house is. I'm the only one who knows where the insurance is. If something happened to me, it would all fall apart. And I realized we have too much stuff. And now that my kids are grown, I'm not sure what I'm doing. And and this real reevaluation point. And one of the things that I've found working with clients and that they found is that when we clear the clutter away, their real purpose gets illuminated. All of a sudden they're not dealing with the stuff and they're like, oh, it's a little quieter around the house, a little quieter in my head. What do I want to do with this next chapter of my life?
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes. Most of the women that follow all my brands, I call them midlife women on the path of self-discovery. They're waking up to their truth, to what turns them on in life, their passions, their creativity. So I love this conversation because I know from personal experience, when we start to clear the clutter, energetic, physical, all levels of clutter, magic happens. So Tracy, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, let's dive in because I want you to explain to our listeners what a clutter magnet is. And we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I am with Tracy McCubbin of dClutterfly.com. We'll be right back.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Consistently attract soulmate clients begins showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back, my friends. Thanks for tuning in. Tracy, right before the break, we are such kindred spirits in so many levels. So I'm so excited to have you here. But I want to dive into helping our listeners understand what clutter can do, right? So let's talk about what a clutter magnet is, because you speak about that quite a bit.
Absolutely. So, we, for years, we've been talking about decluttering and letting go and, getting this stuff out. And everybody's really deep in that conversation and understanding their emotional attachment to their stuff. But I started to pay attention when I had clients who would call me and they'd be like, I need your help again. And, and then the pandemic hit and everybody was locked at home. And I started to get this phone call. Hi, it's Carol. And remember all that stuff we decluttered? Well, I've bought it all back and then some. And I realized as I started to get more and more of those calls and I started to see all the packages that were piling up on everybody's doorsteps, that I just hit me. I was like, we can't talk about decluttering if we're not talking about the acquisition cycle. We're not talking about what we're buying and what we're bringing in to our homes. So I really started to do a deep dive. Why do we shop? Why do we buy? What's the draw? And there's all this science about, basically that forever when we were hunters and gatherers, we would get a hit of dopamine when we found a rabbit to kill or a pear tree in the wild. But we haven't evolved out of that hit of dopamine. So we still, when we go to Target, we get the same hit of dopamine as if we'd killed a woolly mammoth for our family. And so we get a little addicted to that dopamine. But then what I really wanted to look at is, what do we think that's missing inside of ourselves that we're trying to fill with the stuff? So the way that it's almost like a little cartoon, the way that I see clutter magnets. I see that we have a little piece, like a puzzle piece kind of missing out of us. And that it could be that we're not getting true connection in our life, or we don't have strong self-confidence, or we're missing big love or a real purpose. And so what we're trying to fill that missing piece, we try and fill it with stuff. Right? So if you don't have strong self-confidence, you're buying every beauty cream out there and every exercise machine. And if you don't feel big love, you're buying and giving gifts. And so what I wanted to do with this, so those are what the actual clutter magnets are. What we think is missing inside of us that we're trying to fill with stuff that just turns into clutter. And what I wanted to do with the book, Make Space for Happiness, is help people figure out how they can fill those holes without stuff.
Oh my God, this so speaks to me because I have a family member, she's a lot better now, but struggled with always purchasing. I mean, it was always hitting that digital shopping button and having packages. And we used to have some deep conversations. I'm 60, she's probably 40 now. And I said, what is it? It's not like she needs the stuff. They're really, well situated. She goes, it's filling a hole. But it took like 3 months of talking to her to get to that. And that's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Here,
Exactly.
yeah,
And it
shopping.
doesn't work. It doesn't fill the hole. That's why we keep shopping. That's the through line. And I want everyone to understand. It's like, you're going to feel better for, I think it's 17 to 20 seconds, little rise in dopamine, and then it goes away. And then you're like, oh, I need to shop some more. It's the same thing with, that first glass of wine made you feel better. The third should, or that cookie, or, anything that we grab to try and fix it instead of doing the real work.
So true. I remember her saying during the shopping, I'm like, oh, yes. I hit the button. She goes, and Lynn, the product isn't even delivered yet, and I'm already needing the next fix.
17 seconds. 17 seconds.
It really correlates with what you said. So since there is such a correlation between clutter and shopping, are you recommending that they look at the shopping, I don't want to use the word addiction, but the shopping habit first and start there?
Yeah, so that's one of, like, if you're starting on your decluttering journey, or if you've been deep in it and you're sort of like, it's still coming back. Look, it's life. Life is messy. Stuff is going to come into our lives. That's just what happens. Like, let's not, and we do need stuff, we need tools and we need stuff in our kitchen. We need clothes to wear. But what I want people to do is, if you find yourself, I always say, do you have a shopping hangover? Do you sort of get the credit card bill or the packages arrive and you're like, ugh, I really shouldn't have, or why'd I do that? What I'm inviting people to do is look back at the moment that you were shopping and what was really going on. Is it late at night after you had a stressful day at work? Are you feeling underappreciated by your partner and you're like, I deserve a treat? Am I going to get, I'm making little air quotes, retail therapy? Okay, retail shopping is not therapy. I just, we use that. So look at what's going on that's leading you to shop.
Yeah. And one of the things that just came up for me was a conversation with another woman that said she knew it was an issue when she realized that every time she shopped, she had shame, or she'd hide the credit card bill, or she'd hide the item she bought. But she said she didn't know how to stop the cycle. And so everything you're saying really resonates. It's like a wound that has to be healed from this end to stop the clutter issue.
Exactly. And that understanding, and this is what, we're all so hard on ourselves, and so sort of understanding some bigger things, like, the fact that we're being marketed to 24 hours a day, right? Everything is an ad, and we're being told to buy, and this thing is going to fix that, and if you just have the right outfit. And so kind of understanding media literacy, what messaging you're being told, especially as women over 40. Don't get me started on the term anti-aging.
Oh my God.
I, I can't. First of all, anti-aging means you're dead. If you stop aging, then you're dead. So I don't think anybody wants that. And also, why? Like, we've earned our stripes. Like, why do we don't? I'm so happy where I am. I'm 57. Like, I'm so happy for every day I've lived on this earth. And, of course, I wear sunscreen. I like to take care of my skin, but I am who I am. And we're just being sold this bill of goods that somehow it's wrong, or we need to be something different than we are.
Oh, so true. And I just turned 60 and I embrace all aspects of myself. Though it's funny though, isn't this funny, Tracy? In my 20s and 30s, I didn't love and accept myself as I was. And then now, with all my beautiful divine imperfections, right? I embrace myself more now than I ever have, because I know every day is a gift. So why am I going to be against aging?
Yeah, exactly. A girlfriend of mine has this funny expression. We beat ourselves up about our weight, and she always says, "Ugh, I wish I was as skinny as I was when I thought I was fat."
Mm.
And it's so true. Like, you look back at these pictures. I look back at pictures of my 20s when I was so hard on myself, and I'm like, if I could just go back in time, what, like, so I think that I don't want to do that again. I don't want to be that hard on myself. I want to have grace and love for myself. I've made it 57 years, and it's so exciting. I'm getting married for the first time next month. I haven't ever been married. I'm getting married at 57. I'm so excited.
Congratulations, my friend. That is so exciting.
It is. And I think it really came out of knowing myself and finding a worthy partner. And, it's great. It's great. So I really want people that are listening to not, if this stuff is resonating with them and they're like, oh yeah, I felt that shame when the credit card bill comes, or I've hidden the packages. I don't want you to beat yourself up. I want you to take it as your moment of clarity. Like, you know what? This way of being isn't working for me anymore. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel bad. I need to change my relationship to my stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful. And I love that you said release the shame. It wasn't until I released the shame for different things in my life that true healing and happiness came. So that's a powerful piece of wisdom to leave our listeners with. So why do you believe, let's say, I'm just checking the time. We still have 3 to 4 minutes before the next segment. Why do you feel decluttering makes such a difference for our happiness, for relationships, habits, and goals?
So a couple things. One, the science has supported it. The science has shown that the more clutter we have, the more stress we have. And even more so in women. They have done studies of women in cluttered spaces, and their cortisol is jacked up. So scientifically, it's been proven. But the way I think of clutter is clutter, every piece of clutter, every non-usable thing in your house is a decision you have to make. Where do I store this? Do I really want to keep it? Do I need it? Where does it go? And what happens is you're constantly making decisions. You're constantly moving your stuff out of the way. You're managing your stuff. One of the things that I notice with people, this is a phone call I get a lot. I wanted to talk to somebody about organizing my kitchen. Okay, great. Why? What are you thinking? I really want to start eating healthy. And then we come to find out that their kitchen's incredibly cluttered. You know, the cabinets are stuffed to the gills, the countertop is covered with all these machines and coffee makers and stuff. And what happens is it's so cluttered that they don't want to cook because they have to move stuff out of the way to cook. So what they end up doing is going out to eat or ordering in or driving through the drive-through. And then the correlation between decluttering the kitchen and feeling like, oh, okay, I can cook myself a delicious meal. I actually want to be in this space. And because if we notice, for most of us, if we have a really cluttered space or a cluttered room, we usually don't go into it. We kind of actually start to avoid it because it sucks our energy and our thoughts and our time and our decisions.
It is so true. And when I noticed a big shift for me, and I've always been a follower of feng shui, all my house is a feng shui, but life happens, right? We were selling the big house, Tracy, that we were talking about privately. And, you know, we knew in advance we were selling and building next door. And I started going through boxes and like this file cabinet I had, and I'm like, what the hell do I have this stuff here? I've had these papers here for 20 years. Why have I been holding them? So I sat with my energy going like, why would I hold them? And it would have been very easy for me to take those and just put them in the pod while we built our house. And I knew that my new house, I call my intentional home or our intentional home, that every single thing that went into that pod was going to be intentional because that meant it was going into the house. But I didn't believe, even someone that believes in feng shui and decluttering, I couldn't believe the stuff I had kept. And what I told myself was, Linda, if something's been in a box for 20 years, there is no emotional value to it. Let it go. And
Exactly.
That was a thing. Big.
Yeah. I always say this to people who have outside storage units. I'm like, you're paying $200, $400, $600 a month to store these things that you can't access them. If you can't access them, what do you need them for? What do you need them for? And I'm going to ask you, Linda, this is a great question. Of all the stuff that you got rid of when you moved to your intentional home, do you miss anything?
Not one thing, honestly. It's, and I try to share with my clients that is energy. That is energy. If you have a attic, that's energy weighing you down, weight of the world on your shoulders. If it's a basement and you've got all kinds of clutter in it from a feng shui perspective, you can't move forward, right? You always feel stuck. So for me, I was like, you're gone, baby. So no, it was very liberating. We're going to take a quick break, Tracy. And when we come back, I want to talk about some of the decluttering blocks that keep us stuck that you've noticed in your work over the last 15 years. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I am with Tracy McCubbin, author of Make Space for Happiness. Please visit dClutterfly.com to grab a copy of her book and learn more about the empowering work she's doing in the world. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you struggling to grow your mission-driven business in a way that feeds your soul and fulfills your purpose? When you discover your unique human design and divine blueprint, you'll feel empowered in your business, aligned with your inner wisdom, and open to the flow of abundance and success. Nancy O'Keefe is a certified human design specialist and intuitive business coach, successfully coaching entrepreneurs for over 25 years. She is passionate about helping you understand your divine design and your personal formula for success. She knows what it takes after creating her own multi-seven-figure firm. Nancy helps women peel back the layers of who they've been taught to be to reveal who they truly are, so they can build an abundant and sustainable business that feeds their soul. Schedule your complimentary call today at nancyokeefecoaching.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Tracy McCubbin, and we're talking about decluttering and making space for happiness, relationships, habits, and goals that will add to our life. So in your work, Tracy, what are some of the decluttering blocks that you've noticed keep many of us stuck?
Oh, Linda, I love this. So my first book, Making Space Clutter-free, is about exactly this. And there are 7 clutter blocks. And they are, I just got an email this morning. I woke up to the loveliest email from this woman who was like, I found your first book. I'm only on page 40. I've had 6 aha moments. I've already been able to, I never realized how I was blocked. So there's 7 of them. They're all in the first book, but I'm going to talk about a couple that sort of go in line with what you and I have been talking about. And clutter block number 1 is my stuff keeps me stuck in the past. So for you, when you were going through those papers that you held on for 20 years and you were moving to this new intentional house, I'm sure you looked at it and you were like, this was another life. This was a long time ago. This information isn't relevant anymore. Why am I staying stuck back there? Another one about this that I love is, look, it's gravity. It happens to our bodies. I can't wear the same clothes that I could wear in my 20s. My hips are different. My boobs are different. It just happens. So I find so many women hanging on to clothes that they can't fit into anymore. Well, I used to be able to wear that. And it's like, okay, but that was the past. Where are you now? Dress for the body you have. Feel great about where you are, and stuff will keep you stuck. Another big clutter block that I see in people in our age group is trapped with other people's stuff. So that's like rooms that your kids are grown and in their own houses, but you have their rooms still set up like a museum, or you have a lot of stuff from people who have passed away, that you don't want to lose that connection to them. So you're like, let me keep all this furniture that I don't even like and I'm never going to use. And it's keeping you trapped. And it's also not honoring the memory of the people who left it to you.
That's a big one. I didn't struggle with that one, but I do remember the clothes about 20 years ago going, I had a pair of, I love those leather pants. We used to ride Harley, so these butter soft leather pants. And for 3 years, I did what you said. Oh, maybe I'll wear them again. But our life was different. And so I don't know if I was keeping them, Tracy, because there's so many memories of travel in the country with them. And because I love the little size 6, you know what I mean?
Of course.
And then one day I remember looking at them and I guess something had shifted inside. I said, you know what? They've brought me so much joy. I'm going to release them to someone so I can bring them joy. And I consigned them.
It's so great. I have, I tell this story when I was in it before I met my fiance. I had been in a long-term relationship with somebody who was not my equal, he was a very nice person, but we weren't going anywhere, and I stayed in it longer than I should have. And it was, we broke up, and when we broke up, I lost all this weight because I was just the emotions and all the feelings. And I went out and I bought these incredibly expensive pair of pants. They were very specific. They had black with skulls all over them, which is not me. And then sort of as I was moving through the breakup and got some sleep and went back to eating, I got back to my normal weight. And I looked at these pants and I was like, I'm never going to fit into these again. Like, you would have to marry me, divorce me all over again to get back in them. But I paid so much money for them, and maybe I will. And I kept them hanging in my closet, and they made me feel bad. Every time I looked at them, I felt bad about my body. I felt bad about the money I spent. I felt bad about the breakup. And then one day I was like, I am so sick of feeling bad. I'm going to release these pants. So I put together, I do a lot of donating and work with organizations that help foster kids that are in the foster care system. And I work with a place that helps homeless teens. And so I took a big bag of clothes, and the pants were in the bag. And about a week later, the organization was around the corner from my house. And about a week later, I saw this young woman going into the local coffee shop to work wearing my pants. And they were very specific. And there was no world where she would have ever been able to get these pants. And so I called my friend who ran the volunteer program. And I said, I just saw the funniest thing. I think I saw this young woman going into this coffee shop wearing my pants. It looks like she's a barista there. And my friend Nicole said, oh yeah, that's so-and-so. And she's a client of ours. And we've, gotten her housing, and, she's studying for a GED, and she's got her first job. And, she was sex trafficked from the age of 10, and we're in the process of reuniting her with her family. And I was like, it just hit me. Like, I had been holding on to those pants to make myself feel bad, when a person who had lived through things that I can't even fathom, like, if they gave her a little bit of happiness, a little bit of joy, a little bit of self-confidence, like, what was I doing hanging on to something energetically that made me feel bad, that when I released it, it helped another person? That was such an aha moment for me.
Yeah, it's so healing, isn't it? It's how when I release something now, it doesn't matter what it is. I always say, thank you for your service. It could be a shirt, it could be a plant. I always thank it and release, right?
And yeah, always. And this is a really good thing for the people who are listening. If letting go is hard for you, in addition to, finding out your clutter blocks, if you find, sometimes if it's hard for you to let go, sort of donating and dropping off to like the big, the big donation places, it's not great. So sometimes if you can find a smaller nonprofit, or if you can, give it to a friend, that makes it easier to release.
Yeah, I noticed that too. If I know it's going to a local organization more than a big box company, that makes me feel good too. So we have a lot of that in common, my friend.
Absolutely. And just knowing that someone can use it makes it so much easier to let go.
Yeah, it does. And when I can release it with love, then I know that my time with it is done. And that's where I am now. And now we've been in our intentional home 3 years, and I don't buy anything unless it is for a specific reason. Like, I'm still decorating, but no, everything that comes in. I don't just buy plants, even though I love them, unless there's a specific place that's calling.
So, well, I always tell people, this is an interesting point, Linda. I always tell people that when you purchase something, or you get, when a thing, a physical thing comes into your life, you become the steward of it. You are responsible for that thing. So what are you inviting into your house that you're now going to be responsible for? You're responsible for taking care of it. You're responsible for fixing it. You're responsible for getting rid of it. Where's it going to go when you let go of it? Is it going to end up in a landfill? Like, we have to understand that everything we bring into our house, we are now responsible for it and where it ends up. And when we take that seriously, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't need those new throw pillows, because eventually someday I'm going to have to get rid of them, and they're going to end up in a landfill. My couch is just cute enough without those throw pillows.
Yeah, it's like making conscious decisions instead of from an emotional decision.
Absolutely. And what do you want in your life? Like, what do you want to surround yourself with?
Exactly. And I want to, for me, spaciousness is a big word for me. So I want spaciousness and freedom in my life, in my home. I want that I'll give you an example. 30, 40 years ago, when those little country things, everybody had little country knickknacks and all that. Oh my God, I had those damn things everywhere. Right. And I'm aging myself. My daughter's 38 now. And now I'm like, how did I ever do that? There were knickknacks everywhere, little country things, trinkets. And now just the thought of having that around me gives me anxiety. Because now, like, I'm looking at my office and it fills my heart because I feel spaciousness around me. I feel energy can move around me. I feel abundance can flow. So for me, it's really visceral how I feel when I walk into a place, whether it's at someone's home or business that feels cluttered. It energetically affects me. Have you heard that from your clients too?
Oh, all the time. One of the first exercises I do with my new clients is I ask them, why do you want to be decluttered? Why? And, a lot of people start with, well, I'm a bad housekeeper, and I'm like, no, we're not. That's not a why. That's a beating yourself up. That we don't talk about that. Why? And they're like, well, I want to clean out my guest room so my grandkids can come visit, or I want to be able to park my car in my garage. But the thing I hear the most, I just want some peace. I just want space to feel peace and quiet.
Yes, that resonates. That resonates. And I think for so many of the women that I serve through Aspire, that's a big desire, especially in the last few years. And I always talk about intentional life, intentional home, intentional business, right? Those are the three core things I speak about personally through my brands. And it comes down to that. It's that feeling of peace, that where your inner world aligns with your outer world and vice versa. And for me, clutter can keep us away from that. So Tracy, we're going to
go ahead.
I was going to say, we're going to take a final break.
Oh, okay.
Come back for our next segment, and I want to talk about this because it's so important. And then I want you to share some of the benefits from decluttering that women can experience. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I'm with Tracy McCubbin of dClutterfly.com. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Are you ready to create and live the divinely guided life intended for you? A life not bound by your past or tied to a specific future. A life beyond your fears and what-ifs that is filled with limitless possibilities. Experiencing an empowered life of fulfillment, joy, and connection is possible when you embrace a spiritual, solutions-centered lifestyle. Through her transformational teachings and programs, Lisa Hermata, empowered life view guide, life transformation mentor, and founder of Love is the Seed, empowers women to break the barriers holding them back from living their sacred truth so they can find greater connection with their inner wisdom and their divine source to co-create a life that brings peace, joy, and self-acceptance. Visit loveistheseed.com for positive guidance and valuable resources to support you in embracing an empowered life view.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for circling up with us today. So Tracy, right before the break, you were sharing about when you got down to the seed of why people were coming to you. It came to being in peace. So let's talk about that a little more, and then I'm going to have you share in this final segment some of the benefits that people gain when they declutter.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. About a year, maybe 2 years ago now, I rebranded my company. You know, I'd been in business for 15 plus years, and you know, things change, and the tagline for my company is "Make space for what matters." And that was what I was seeing with my clients. Like, as we were clearing space, they were able to host dinner parties or have friends over or travel, or, you know, they weren't beholden to their stuff. And I think that, you know, for me, having done this for so long and been in so many people's homes, that it's not about having a perfect home because it looks good on Pinterest or on Instagram. It's having a home that works for you and supports you, that doesn't detract, doesn't suck energy from you. And if your home is really, really cluttered, I'm sorry, it's sucking energy. I've just seen it too many times. You're just managing your stuff all the time.
It's so true. And one of the other things too is it's like you're always moving something because you know, like my girlfriend when she cleaned, she really wasn't cleaning. She was just moving things because they were in the way. And I'm like, oh my God, she's constantly moving the same things. Why don't you just get rid of them?
Exactly. And it's such a time suck. Like, is that how you want to be spending your time, moving things so you can dust? No, I want you to go out and take a bike ride, or, you know, meet a friend for coffee. There's so many better things to do in life than clean. Blah. You know, I want to free you up to pursue your passion.
Yeah, and I love that tagline, make space for what matters. For me, that's what intentional living is all about. That's been the path that I've been on. And here's what's funny, and I know you know this from the work you're doing. The more intentional I became in my life and my business, and I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, so it's been a journey. What I noticed that as I intentionally chose what came into my home, my environment, into my energy field, as I cleared things out over the years, guess what came in? Inner peace, abundance, more joy. 14 weeks off every year to be able to be with my honey and travel and with my family. If I hadn't learned those principles, I wouldn't be able to move that kind of energy.
1000%. I mean, you know, everything. People get new jobs, clients get pregnant, you know, all sorts of things happen. And I want people, you know, I think sometimes people sort of feel comforted by their clutter, but in my experience, the clutter's almost a wall that keeps them from really experiencing life. You know, oh, I can't go out this weekend, I've got to clean my closets, or I got to deal with this, you know, that they're keeping. It's just the best. It's like almost like a wall of stuff to keep you from participating in your own life.
Yeah, I so agree. And I can remember about a decade ago, I'd given my friend a book on feng shui, and she hadn't been in a relationship for a while. And she's an extraordinary woman, and would always talk, because I'd say, well, you know, how is a new person going to come in where you still keep a bunch of stuff from your ex? One, two, you store stuff under your bed, which is an energetic clutter, and both nightstands in your bedroom are filled with clutter and books. There's no space, energetic space for someone to come into your life. So I would always send her books, and finally she read something that I sent her that touched her, and she cleared out half a closet and said, I leave space for this new person. She cleared the other side of the bed, left the nightstands. Guess what? 6 months later, she met someone. Yeah, and they're still together. And I truly believe it's everything that you said. If we have stagnant energy, we can't call in our deepest desires because there's no room for it to come.
Absolutely. And I think there's another level of also, we don't even sort of realize that we're, that if our home isn't inviting, it's another way that we're keeping people from it, coming into our lives. I had a client who her husband had passed, and I was working with her. It's been a couple years, and she decided she was ready to date again. She was like, okay, I'm feeling ready to date. I want this. He'd been sick for a long time. And so we were doing a big closet audit and getting rid of everything. And I started to say to her, everything that I held up, I was like, would you want to wear this in front of your new fella? And she's like, oh no, it's awful. And I'm like, out it goes. Out it goes. And that was our litmus test, right? Like, would you feel cute and fun? And would you wear this in front? And she's like, no, that's schlumpy. I feel totally schlumpy in that. And I'm like, out, no more schlumpy, no more schlumpy. And, and of course she had a closet full of clothes she loved. And when she started dating, she didn't stress about what to wear. Everything in there she felt cute in.
That is powerful. It's again creating space for what matters.
Exactly.
And what are some of the other benefits you've seen from your clients who've decluttered? Because it affects every area of your life.
Everything, one thing that people don't, and you talked about this a little bit, touched on it. One thing people don't realize is that they gain back time. Your clutter's a time suck. If you have to move things around, or if you have to clear off your bed to get into it at night, or if your closet's really, really messy and you can't find anything you want to wear, it takes you time to get dressed in the morning. So people get back time, which, as we know, is our most important commodity. Money. If you're living in a cluttered home, if you're living in especially a cluttered kitchen, and you don't know what you have, oftentimes you're buying multiples because you can't find the things that you need. It's like, oh, I thought I bought that. Where is that? Where are my thank you cards? Oh, I need to buy another round. So people save money, people save time, and, people just exactly what you said, the sort of joy that comes back. I had a client call me. She had a pretty cluttered apartment, and it had been that way. She had been dealing with depression, and we finally, she called me and we dove in and we decluttered her apartment. She called me a couple weeks later and she said, Tracy, I have to tell you, in 12 years that I've been living this way, she said, people would call me, to like meet up or do something. And she goes, I always got so much anxiety and I'd have to figure out where to meet them. And, all these plans. She goes, a friend called me the other day and said, hey, do you want to meet for a cup of coffee? She said, for the first time in 12 years, I was able to say, why don't you come over here for a cup of coffee? She said,
Wow.
now my home wasn't perfect. She said, but it felt good enough and I was proud enough to open the door, and I had a friend in my home, and I hadn't done that in 12 years. She was like, I'm overjoyed. And I was thinking to myself, like, you just invited love and friendship and connection into your home. That's amazing.
It's so healing. And this is what we want, as I know I do, in yourself, Tracy, is we want everyone to make space for what matters. We are all worthy of having inner peace, joy, happiness, relationships. We just have to make space for it. And I want to take a moment to invite everyone to go to Tracy's website. And it's the letter D, clutterfly.com. So visit dClutterfly.com, grab a copy of both her books, especially the new one, Make Space for Happiness, which covers a lot of what we were talking about today. And stay connected with Tracy. Follow her on her social media platform. She is everywhere, girls. She is everywhere. And always sharing great tips, resources, and so much more. Tracy, do you have a final piece of wisdom, more than you've already shared, my friend, that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I do. I have a change that you can implement right now. This little change, and it's a change in vocabulary, will make such a big difference. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, I need a new pair of jeans, I need a new headband, I need a new pair of shoes, I can guarantee you, you don't need any of those things. just start saying, I want a new pair of jeans. I want a new headband. And what happens is when you acknowledge that it's a want and not a need, it loses all its power. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I actually don't even want that. I was just feeling a little lonely today. What I really wanted was to call my best friend. When you name what the real feeling is, then you can deal with it. And then you're not kidding yourself that you need another pair of jeans.
I love that. That's powerful because you can feel the energetic trigger when you say.
Exactly. And you're doing it to yourself. Oh, and what happens when you say that you need is you put yourself in a place where you're scarcity, that you don't have enough. We all have enough. We have more than enough. So when you just name it exactly what it is, it's so freeing.
I so appreciate you leaving our audience with that powerful tip. Everyone, please visit Tracy at dClutterfly.com. Tracy, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to staying connected, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Linda. I'm wishing you an amazing day.
Thank you. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, and choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.